All right, so we are going to talk about section 1.5, and it's going to be continuing on from our naming angles and going more into angles, especially with adding them. So we're going to have a couple sections that are going to be talking about that. So continuing on, we talked about this with segments, but the biggest thing that you need to know for angles is they're going to have these arc marks. So it's going to be these red angle marks, and that's going to tell us that these two angles are congruent. So that's just going to be important to know if you ever see these marks. Okay, that's telling us that angles are congruent. So we're going to go ahead and look at um, the angle addition postulate, which is very similar again to that segment addition postulate, but this time it's going to include angles. So this is saying if S is in the interior of angle PQR, then the measure of angle PQS plus the measure of angle SQR equals the measure of angle PQR. So if you see that M in front of the angle mark, or that's going to be telling us just the measure of. So in this case, we're talking about the angle addition postulate, and it's saying that this angle, this blue angle plus this red angle, is going to equal the whole angle of PQR. So it's going to be both of those angles added up together equals the whole angle of PQR. So let's go ahead and look at some examples. So let's go ahead and look at this example right here. It tells us, okay, the measure of angle DEG equals 115 and the measure of angle DEF equals 48, we need to find the measure of FEG. So with DEG, okay, that's going to be our whole angle. Okay, so it's going to be both of these angles combined. So we need to recognize, okay, 115 is going to be the whole angle. Then it tells us that DEF, the angle of DEF is going to be 48, so that's going to be this angle right here. So if this is 48 and the whole angle is 115, we need to find just this angle of FEG. So in this case, since we're just finding part of the angle, not the whole angle together, we're going to go ahead and subtract. So we need to do that addition angle postulate. We're going to need to subtract and substitute our given values. So I know these kind of combine a little bit, but this is 115 equals 48 plus the measure of angle FEG. So we're going to go ahead and subtract 48 on both sides, and then that's going to give us 67. So the measure of angle FEG is going to equal 67. So let's go ahead and look at another example. Okay, this says the measure of angle XWZ is 121, and the measure of angle XWY equals 59. So we need to find the measure of angle WZ. So it says XWZ, okay, that's the whole angle, that's going to be 121. Then it tells us the measure of XWY. Okay, so this one's going to look just like the last one. So if this angle right here is 59 and the whole angle is 121, we're going to need to subtract again. So we're going to go ahead and do this angle postulate. We know that we need to subtract the two values. So we're going to do 121 minus 59, and that's going to give us YWZ. That angle is going to be 62 degrees. So that time we're just subtracting. All right, and then there's the reasons. Okay, here's one thing that's really important to know is angle bisectors. So angle bisectors are a ray that divides an angle into two congruent angles. So anytime you have an angle bisector, like this one, it says JK bisects angle LJM, okay, then that's going to make two angles that are congruent. So if this angle right here, angle LJK, is 30 degrees, then this angle right here, KJM, is also going to be 30 degrees. So anytime it's an angle bisector, if you ever hear the word angle bisector, it's dividing the angle into two congruent angles. So it's dividing it perfectly in half. So let's go ahead and look at this example right here. So we have KM bisects angle JKL, and the measure of JKM equals 4x plus 6, and the measure of MKL equals 7x minus 12. Okay, so if it says JKM, okay, that's this angle right here, that's 4x plus 6. All right, then it says MKL is 7x minus 12. So that's going to be this angle right here. All right, it tells us that KM is an angle bisector. So since we know it's an angle bisector, we know that these two angles are congruent. So in order to solve, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set them equal to each other because we know that they're congruent. So in order to find x, we set the two angles congruent to each other, substitute our values. Okay, we're going to add 12 to both sides, we're going to subtract 4 to both sides, and that's going to give us 18 equals 3x, and therefore 6 equals x. So x equals 6. But if we go back, it doesn't tell us just to find x. We need to find the measure of angle JKM. So in order to do that, we're going to take JKM, which is 4x plus 6. We're going to go ahead and substitute our 6 in, and that's going to give us 30 degrees. Okay. All right. Here's another one that you can look at. I'll attach the notes if you would like, but I want to make sure I give you guys enough time to work. Biggest thing I would just say is make sure you use that angle addition postulate in order to help you solve your given questions, and then you'll have this worksheet will either be due on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever your block day is. If you have questions, just feel free to email me.